Nigeria's COVID-19 cases exceed 45,000 as NCDC records 354 new infections. More drama as faction in Edo Assembly sacks Speaker. Edo youths vow to defend. In international news, massive cleanup continues in Beirut after massive explosion that killed more than 140. And in sport, federal government lifts ban on tennis non-contact sport.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria's COVID-19 cases have now exceeded 45,000 as NCDC confirmed 354 cases from 17 states on Thursday. Federal Capital Territory had the highest number, 78 new cases, while Lagos recorded 2 fewer. 14 other states also recorded new infections. More than 32,000 infected persons have been discharged so far. Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, have raised their voices over the regulation of the downstream petroleum sector. The group say this is not good for the country because Nigeria still relies on imports of refined products. The Petrol Product Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, says it would advise the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and oil marketing companies on the monthly guiding retail price at which the product shall be sold around across the country, but it is yet to do that. Chairman of the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Tunji Oyebanji, says PPPRA's silence in giving a fixed price has caused some marketers to fix the price themselves. Southwest chapter of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has now directed all its members to increase the PMS pump price to 150 naira per litre. The federal government says it is ready to pay from next Monday June hazard allowances of medical workers handling COVID-19 cases across the country. Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, gave the assurance on Thursday at a meeting with the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors in Abuja. Ngige says despite a shortfall in revenue, the government will start the payment with 6 hospitals while waiting for more funds. Ngige also announced that the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital case has been amicably resolved, with the Chief Medical Director bringing back the interdicted resident doctors. Ngige says both factions have been merged peacefully and elections have been conducted to elect an interim executive to conduct the affairs of the chapter till the end of the year. There will be a fresh election to choose a new executive that would take over next year. President of National Association of Resident Doctors, Aliyu Sukumba, corroborated the minister's words and said there is a significant progress. Edo State Assembly Speaker Frank Okiye has been sacked a few hours after Deputy Speaker Yakini Idiaye was impeached. 17 House members, allegedly loyal to former Governor Adams Oshomole, impeached the Speaker and elected Victor Edoro as successor. Only 10 members of the All Progressives Congress 24-member Assembly had been inaugurated into the 8th Assembly after the proclamation by the Governor in June last year. The other 14 members remain as members-elect because they have yet to be inaugurated. The state government has started closing down some isolation centers after the state recorded a decline in the number of cases in the state. Lagos was the epicenter of the pandemic before the steady decline. And correspondent Deji Badmus reports the state government says it is retooling its capacity and preparedness to meet the possibility of a likely resurgence.
The Lagos state government's decision to shut down 2 more isolation centers comes just weeks after the first one was closed. But it's not just the decline of new coronavirus cases that is prompting this move. Since the government announced it was starting home care management of COVID-19 cases, the number of patients at its isolation centers have dropped off, with many patients preferring to be treated at home rather than at designated isolation facilities. The state government says just under 100 patients have been treated at its isolation centers at the moment, while about 1,800 are getting treatment from their homes.
So we've got it to a stage where we need to be able to also be able to balance the economics of it, and which of these facilities do we need to keep running. Some of them now are having less than 20% occupancy, and we've seen over time that we can very quickly also wrap up those capacity again.
Treatment for COVID-19 is free in Lagos. Instead, the cost is incurred by the state, but the cost could go as high as $25,000 per day for a severely ill patient that needs intensive care. And it's part of the reasons the government introduced home care management for low-risk patients.
We have seen a gradual decrease in positivity rate in Lagos State over the last 2 weeks, which combined with our increase in testing numbers points to a very encouraging picture of the outcome of our response strategy in the state.
Buoyed by the city's declining number of COVID-19 cases, authorities have now announced a further easing of restrictions. Schools are allowed partial reopening for students sitting final exams. Worship places can resume services, with some exceptions, while restaurants will be allowed dine-in services. But some health experts are warning against rushing to ease restrictions.
We may not be having a high number of cases like we were having before, but then again, it's all boils down on the number of people we are testing, the number of people that are coming forward to be tested. Before, in the past, a lot of people were coming forward to be tested, but now I doubt we still have that kind of zeal.
One step at a time. That's how the government in Lagos says it is approaching this. And despite the lockdown easing, it is also advising residents not to let down their guards, warning that the fight against COVID-19 is very much far from won.
Coming up, African stories. Ghana introduced relief measures to ease COVID-19 pandemic hardship. And later, international news. Cleanup efforts continue in Beirut in the aftermath of massive explosion that killed more than 140 and injured 5,000.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Just like the rest of Africa, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought some hardships to Ghana's citizens as a result of lockdowns and other strict measures to combat the spread. Now the government has introduced relief measures to ease the hardship. Correspondent Nabil Ahmed Rufai tells us more.
Anayebue's work at this salon suffered a setback when Ghana went into lockdown in March due to the coronavirus outbreak. Her only source of livelihood was on the line when she closed her salon to customers.
People come to do their hairs, pay us and all that so that we can get a little bit of money for ourselves. But since we're not working, we had no money on us and all that.
As the government lifts restrictions, businesses like Anna's have begun to open. But it will take some time for them to recoup their losses. Official statistics show 42,000 employees were laid off during the lockdown, and the impact of COVID-19 on businesses still lingers. Anas Salon can however enjoy the free water supply for the next 3 months and free electricity for the rest of the year. It's part of the government's relief to citizens and businesses impacted by the pandemic.
Now that we have free water, free electricity, we want a constant supply so that it will help us flow in our business.
The government has also set up a $347 million fund to support all sectors of business and create jobs. The government says this intervention could support economic growth after the shocks caused by COVID-19.
As the government tries to stimulate economic growth with the relief packages to citizens, it is also looking to slash capital expenditure by $216 million. It hasn't specified where the cuts will come from, but some economists worry it could affect plans to invest heavily in infrastructure this year.
Already, the government's spending has gone up due to the unbudgeted COVID-19 containment measures. Meanwhile, revenue generation has fallen below target due to the slump in crude oil prices, among other factors, as a result of the pandemic.
Our trend in terms of capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP is actually on a decline. That actually gives an indication that we are more or less trying to stimulate growth and then minimize the impact of COVID-19. But the other aspect is trying to get ourselves out of the lower middle income economy. Yeah. So that's where we have to do more.
Businesses like this salon are doing all they can to bounce back from the hardship caused by COVID-19. Although the government's relief could boost their efforts, economists say it is only a short-term solution of dealing with the impact caused by the pandemic.
The low demand for oil in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic has adversely affected South Sudan's revenue. The country's oil production levels have dropped drastically from 185,000 barrels per day as a result of COVID-19. Correspondent Patrick Hoyet has more.
COVID-19 restrictions are disrupting the flow of oil production in South Sudan. The closure of seaports in neighboring Sudan has negatively affected means of reaching international markets, and limited transport has created issues getting hold of necessary chemicals.
The prices of oil really went down so much that it was not really earning us enough foreign currency for the nation to be able to do whatever they want to do.
Oil money funds 98% of South Sudan's budget. It has been bringing much needed foreign currency into South Sudan, but business people here now say hard currency is scarce, the local currency is losing value and prices of goods are rising, and it is having effects on shopkeepers.
Customers are coming just a little in a day. You can't get even much. You know, in the shop, both business, mobile money, and the shop. You know, that is the only challenges we are facing. We get now a little few sales in a day.
South Sudan is among the most oil-dependent countries in the globe, according to the World Bank. So the government is trying to encourage production in other areas of the economy.
South Sudan's economy is characterized by subsistence farming and pastoralism. Most of the commodities in the markets are imported, and that creates more demand on the hard currency, which is currently not readily available.
South Sudan's government is saying it is starting to buy locally mined gold with the intention to purify it and build a durable reserve.
Should we have enough foreign currency from the gold that we have, that means we will stabilize the market. When we stabilize the market, the prices will come down. When the prices will come down, even the exchange rates definitely will come down.
The COVID-19 pandemic has derailed South Sudan's plans to increase its crude oil production. It is now revising its plans in the hopes of an economic revival elsewhere.
Independence celebrations are still in the air in Comoros, where the country is marking its 45th year of gaining freedom from France. Part of events marking the occasion is an exhibition of made in Comoros arts objects, clothes and spices. These are parts of the third edition of the craft fair organized on the Independence Anniversary. Officials say the objective is to promote the national workforce and enhance the craft and industry sector. President Azali Azumani was a part of the events to show his support for local production. Citizens have been encouraged to patronize made in Comoros products to boost the nation's economy. Officials say such patronage would support the objectives of sustainable development and would promote a culture of local consumption and enhance exports that would positively improve the nation's foreign exchange earnings.
When we return, international news. Massive cleanup continues in Beirut after massive explosion that killed more than 140. And later, sports. Federal government lifts ban on tennis non-contact sport.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. International rescue teams arrived in Beirut on Thursday after a massive chemical explosion killed more than 140 and injured 5,000. 250,000 have been displaced. French President Emmanuel Macron was in Beirut on Thursday in a show on solidarity. As correspondent Adil El Marouki reports, massive cleanup efforts are ongoing in the Lebanese capital amid anger in the streets.
Scores of citizens are rushing with their brooms, their shovels, rushing to all corners of the capital for a massive cleanup initiative. It's not organized by a group or an entity, but rather everyone feels entitled to help their capital by any means.
They lost their homes, they lost families, and as you can see, there are some people who lost their business, and in this business they live like they earn the money and they go pay for their home rent, for their kids' school, and so they lost their business. And these people, they need help, or else they can't do anything. They don't have any money anymore, so we should help them. It's a must, actually.
Beirut to us, it's like, it's the capital and it's like the soul of Lebanon, It's all of us feel like we're part of it. When I came to university, I came down to Beirut to study, so I stayed here for 5 years. So when I heard the news 2 days ago, I felt like, as if part of me was ripped off and I couldn't stand. I just wanted to come down and, and see what's happening and to help.
This NGO stands a few blocks away from the center of the blast. As you can see, it's been shattered by the shockwave. People here are working very quickly to bring its services back to life, to provide health care services for the public as soon as possible. Why are you moving this fast to clean up quickly?
It's not only us who are working. These youths, they're scouts, charity volunteers who were passing by. They kept asking, do you need any help? Lebanese people have a great work spirit. If a task needs half an hour, they'll do it in 2 minutes. Lebanon will never die.
Beirut is known to be one of the liveliest and most entertaining cities in the Middle East. Today, the Lebanese capital is shattered. Signs of destruction are evident everywhere. And the entire country is putting hand in hand to bring back the country on its feet after witnessing the most horrific incidents in years.
The two most popular cities in the Netherlands, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, have ordered residents to wear face masks in busy public places to counter the rising coronavirus infections, but many still resist doing so. There was even a protest against the order, and correspondent Stefan de Virus has more.
Until now, the Netherlands only imposed wearing face masks in public transportation. But on Wednesday, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, the country's two largest cities, will ask people to wear face masks in busy places like shopping streets or markets like here, where people find it too difficult to keep the advised 1.5 meters social distance.
On the first day of the new measure, most of the visitors played along with the rules.
Today, the city of Amsterdam is starting an experiment. During the next 3 weeks, we'll be distributing face masks to see what the impact will be.
I find it great that they're doing this because there are still many people who don't know the rules, and now they do.
I'm glad they've now done this, but they could have done this a lot earlier.
If everyone says it's necessary, I'll do it without complaining, but I don't know if it helps.
The rules are quite confusing. Here you don't have to wear face masks, but here you do.
Shopkeepers have mixed feelings about the new rules.
There are fewer people. Yesterday was much better than today.
I'm fine with it. There are many tourists now. I have a small desk, so I feel safer for myself.
Well, it's not practical at all. We have to talk to people, many foreigners, who already have trouble understanding us. So if you talk like this, it's even worse.
Currently, the authorities are seeing how the public respond to the new guidance, showing some leniency as the policy comes into effect. And that means that in the first few weeks, the police will tell people who are not respecting the rules to wear a face mask, but they will not fine them.
Many may find this story fascinating. As more American cities open and people return to physical offices, parents are facing tough decisions about childcare. Some families in New York City are actually looking to hire nannies who have already had the coronavirus and tested positive for antibodies, and some are willing to pay more for that reassurance. Correspondent Haruna Hoover answers the question, why?
At the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, when residents in cities like New York were told to stay home, many nannies were let go. But now, experts say, there is an unprecedented demand for them.
A lot of families fled to the Hamptons or upstate or home somewhere else and are now coming back to the city and looking for new help.
Looking for help in part because schools in many U.S. cities are not returning to normal this fall, putting a strain on working families that rely on schools for childcare. Davis, who runs Adventure Nannies, a placement agency that helps families find nannies across the United States, says nannies are being asked to take on more tasks than ever.
A lot of families who were having some kind of, chef or a meal delivery service or housekeepers coming in have suspended those services to protect their family and limit exposure. And so nannies are really being relied on a lot more heavily right now.
On social media, some nannies have expressed their frustration over what families are now asking them to do. One post said, "Mine just asked me to stain a table while they were away. I said no." Davis says matching families with nannies has become more of a challenge.
She says families and nannies are now forced to have frank, yet often uncomfortable conversations about living situations, health backgrounds, and what they do in their spare time to try and best protect everyone involved.
Those who have already been exposed to the virus are often highly valued.
Right now, nannies who have taken the antibody test and shown that they have already had COVID do have a hiring advantage over other candidates.
This despite the fact that little is known about how long COVID-19 antibodies last and whether they provide effective long-term immunity. What's clear is the pandemic has forced families and nannies into uncharted territory. There are no easy solutions in trying to protect everyone involved. But what Davis says is required is a higher level of trust than ever before.
Up next, sport. Federal government lifts ban on tennis. Please stay with us.
You are watching AN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. be cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, the federal government has lifted its ban on non-contact outdoor sports, including tennis. National Coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, classified these sports as low risk. They include athletics, lawn tennis, table tennis, golf, cricket, cycling, and others. Contact sports like football, boxing, wrestling, rugby, swimming, and basketball remain banned until further notice. England club Norwich has rejected a £10 million bid for left-back Jamal Lewis's transfer to Liverpool. Norwich say they are unhappy with Liverpool's conduct in the pursuit of Lewis. They consider the offer disrespectful. Despite relegation from the Premier League, Norwich says there is no pressure to sell Lewis. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great weekend.